So the question is, how do you create a safe culture for people to grow and learn in? One of the things we have to understand that growth implies the freedom to make mistakes. Mistakes, of course, is failure. And the thing we have to understand about failure is that failure is the great educator. Now, I don't want to try and fail. I don't want my people trying to fail. And if someone fails constantly at the same task, I do at that point have to wonder if they're made for that task or if they're making the attempt they should make and that kind of thing. So that's clear. However, we have to remember that failure is the only educator there is. Anybody that's ever learned anything has learned it by trial and error, by failure. Everything we do well now, everything we do well, we did badly at one time. If you're sitting in a chair right now, I got to tell you something. You're probably doing a phenomenal job sitting in your chair. And if I was seeing you sitting in your chair right now, I'm sure I would compliment you on how you're sitting in your chair. However, do you know at one point in your life you did that very badly? Yeah, you were an infant and you were trying to sit in a chair and you kept falling over. And you had to learn the process of sitting up in a chair. As a matter of fact, when you think about it, a 1-year-old, when you put them on the ground, how do they learn how to walk? How do they learn? Constant stumbling, constant failure. So when a kid turns 1, what did you do? If you had a kid, what did you do when your kid turned 1? You picked him up, you carried the kid for about 3 years, and put him back down when they were 4 because, well, we couldn't have little Johnny or Janie fail, could we? Couldn't have that happen. No, man, we left them on the ground. They had to learn the process of walking by constant failure, but we did something else. We created a safe culture for them to fail in. We put little bumpers on the end of the coffee table so they wouldn't beat their brains out if they fell. We took sharp objects off the lower shelves so they wouldn't break the breakable things and sharp things so they wouldn't hurt themselves. We put a little fence on top of the stairs because we didn't want our kids to fail that badly, if you know what I mean. We created a safe culture. We let them fail. They had to learn that way, but we created a safe culture for them to fail in. Failure is the great educator. They had to fail if they were going to learn. I had somebody look at me at a workshop once. They said, well, Doug, I appreciate all you're saying about failure and learning from failure. Thank you very much. I said, but when I'm up in an airplane, I don't really want my pilot learning by failure. And I said, well, that makes perfect sense, but let me ask you a question. When the pilot showed up for flight training school for the first time, do you think the instructor flipped into the keys to the 747 and said, take it out for your spin to see if you like it? No, where do you put first-time pilots? You put them in simulators. The reason you put them in simulators is because they're going to fail. And so what you do is you put them in a safe culture to fail in. We don't want hundreds of people dying while they learn how to fly an airplane. So we put them in a safe culture to fail in. Same thing we're going to do at work. The question it becomes, what is a safe culture to fail in the workplace? Two key phrases. Appropriate expectations, appropriate response. Appropriate expectations. I don't put more expectations on you. I'm not going to set you up for failure by expecting more than what you can deliver. I'm going to be careful about the goals that I give you. I'm going to be careful about what the expectations exactly are. I'm not going to set you up for failure by setting expectations that are out of this world when you're not ready for those things. And then the second thing, along with appropriate expectations, is appropriate response. When you do fail, when you do make a mistake, I'm going to use it as a teaching opportunity, an education, as opposed to a punishment. I'm not going to embarrass you. I'm not going to humiliate you. I'm not going to demean you. I'm going to show you where you went wrong. We're going to teach you through it so the next time you can do a better job. A safe culture to fail in, whether it's a pilot learning in a simulator, whether there's a kid learning to walk with safety all around him. We've got to do the same thing at the workplace. We've got to give them that opportunity. Appropriate expectations, appropriate response. You know, Thomas Edison somebody looked at Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison apparently tried about 900 times to get the light bulb right, give or take. 900 times to get the light bulb right. Somebody came up to Thomas Edison. They said, Thomas, you failed 900 times to get the light bulb right. And Thomas Edison looked back and said, no, I found 900 ways it won't work. And that's the exact point. Failure led ultimately to that discovery. Failure is the great educator. What we have to do is allow for it, allow for the mistakes, but put people in a safe culture to fail in. Appropriate expectations, appropriate response.